Hello, I'm Garrett, and in this video I'm going to do a run through the assembly of the RGB Shades Kit from our recent Kickstarter. We're macetech.com, and we designed an LED matrix that you can look through. So by the time this video comes out, maybe only 20 people will actually use this, because a lot of people have already figured out how to put these together on their own, which is pretty cool. But for the sake of completeness, we're just going to go ahead and do a run through the assembly of these. So this is what you'll typically see. Get a packing list. You'll want to make sure everything on the packing list is in the box, because who knows what happens. We think we're going to be pretty accurate on that, but always good to double check. And in here we'll have the RGB Shades material itself. So we have the custom case from the stretch goal, and this contains the LED panel itself. Just we're putting it in the case for some extra protection during transit. And then we have a bag of bags. These are the parts that you'll use to assemble the RGB shades. So let's get a bunch of the stuff out of the bags and get started. So we have the LED panel. Let's put that aside for now. And in this bag we have the two side pieces. And this is a piece of protective tape to keep the little contacts from getting damaged in transit, but you'll definitely need to remove this tape later. Here's our skinny cable. We have two more small bags in here, and one of them contains a controller and some extra PCBs for the hinges, and the other one contains some hardware, which we'll leave alone for now, except for taking out the sandpaper. Let's get that out of there. Okay. So we'll set that aside. But first thing to do, and with this kit, you're getting something that's relatively unfinished off the circuit board. We did go ahead and pop out the parts just to save some shipping weight, but there'll be these little jaggy edges. Don't know if you can see. Okay, there we go. So we get little jaggy edges on some of these, and those aren't too bad, but some of them will scratch you a little bit. So just going to go ahead and take the edge off of those. And I'm purposely not going to speed up this video, just so you'll have a pretty good idea of how long it'll take to assemble these. People on the Kickstarter were commenting and saying that they were getting it done in about 15 minutes, but I don't know if they did all the sanding that I did. But 15 minutes would be pretty good for a first run through. That's about what I'm getting on assembling these, and I've done a whole bunch of them. So we're not going to try to get the edges of this perfectly smooth, but we'll take the edge off and get rid of any splinters. Of course, one thing to remember is we're also generating some fiberglass dust, which from PCBs is generally not too bad in small quantities, such as we have here, but after you're done with this step, you'll definitely want to brush things off. Go, wash your hands, and I'm not going to, because I'm trying to shoot a video here. If I get itchy, I'll just suffer. But it's really not too bad. We're not taking that much off. Okay, so that's pretty close to the amount of sanding you'll want to do. So there might be a little bit more where you would want to fold the sandpaper up and get it into here. There's, I'll try to focus on there. Come on. You can do it. No, you can't. Oh, that's horrible. Anyway, there's these little dog bone shapes there, and they're not supposed to be dog bones. They're supposed to be basically straight-edged slots. So, little manufacturing glitch there, and it makes the parts a little bit tight sometimes. So you'll want to take out that little nub on the inside there if you can. You might have better luck with an X-Acto knife, or extremely carefully, of course, some type of a Dremel bit attachment, and obviously that could cause some real damage if it lost control. So in any case, you don't have to take off too much to get it to fit a little bit better, and once you cinch them down with the screws, you can squeeze them in there pretty easily, because the screws will exert a lot of force, and the fiberglass is it'll deform pretty easily. So, of course, when I did this for all the ones I assembled, I did use a Dremel bit, and didn't have any accidents, but I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. So let's go ahead and set most of this aside, and what I like to do is go ahead and get the soldering out of the way. It means that you're moving parts and you kind of have some of them flopping around a little bit, but I think it's better just to get out of the way. So what I'm going to do is add a little flux to these pads. I'm gonna use lead-free solder, which I mean, there isn't really a huge health benefit on a hobby level choosing lead-free solder versus leaded solder, but I mean, if you're gonna do lead-free solder, I mean, this thing is on your face, so near your mouth. So I mean, this is the time to do it. If you're gonna, might as well take advantage of that. But on balance, I mean, you're not gonna see over. I mean, you could probably suck on a piece of lead solder every day and not really see a huge effect. I mean, don't quote me on that or try it, but and it's not something I do, so just do as I do. Anyway, a little bit more, well, a lot more flux, because my lead-free solder here is a little cranky sometimes. I'll go ahead and turn up that iron a little bit, and I'm doing this the non-standard way, where you don't add solder to the joint. I'm actually just pressing it into an existing blob of solder, but with this surface mount LED or wiring technique, it's probably the best way to get it done. Just reheat those, push them down. So, yeah, that's not too bad. Let's try again to focus. There we go. Yeah, all right. I am, of course, not using any sort of fancy video camera here, just your standard iPhone 5S. It takes pretty good videos, so I'm sure at some point I will see a really good reason to upgrade to a decent camera. So I kind of made a little bit of a mess of this joint, but it will work. And that is all the soldering we have to do on this kit. Alright, so next let's go ahead and add the brackets, the brackets for the front part of the brackets for the hinges. And for that, we're going to have to break into our hardware. Let's go ahead and carefully make a pile, because there's some really small parts in here we don't want to go missing. And we have provided a hex wrench, and we will need 2 of the 6mm screws. There's one that's a little bit longer. This is an 8mm, and there are a couple of 12mm screws here. So 2 of the 6, 2 of the nuts. So for this, I like to take one of these. I'll try to do a close-up. Take one of these, slot it in, and depending on how it's cut, it'll either stay in there a little bit or be a little bit loose. Then take tweezers and set the nut in there. Take another one of these, get that wedged in there, and then now I have one hand trapped while I need to get my Loctite, or I think this is generic thread locker of some kind, which is almost empty. But, oh, there we go. Nice drop of it in there. So, we'll put a little dab of thread locker. And for this, I mean, you may not really need to use thread locker. You could just use some super glue or Elmer's glue, or really just anything to keep it from moving after you install it. So snug it down fairly tight, but you know, not like you're stripping out the screw or anything. So we'll do the same on this side. That one's a little bit tighter, so we'll wedge it in. And the tweezers make this step a lot easier. It's you may not be too concerned about that since you're doing one, probably, but I had to do a lot. So efficiency of technique was a major concern. Alright, just hold it on there. Our other 6mm screw. Feed that in. And get that cinched up. Alright, so now we've got our hinges attached. They're pretty strong, you know, pretty sturdy. Okay, so let's just see how this one's going to go. This is the left side arm. So let's see how that's going to fit in there. Yeah, it goes. A little bit tight. Like if you have more time, might be a good idea to go ahead and you know, I'm gonna try to get a little bit more out of there. So again, slight manufacturing mishap or miscommunication or something like that. When people don't usually make circuit boards like this, so it's not unexpected that things would be slightly mechanically off. Oh, okay, that fits in really good. So we'll take one of our washers and put it on there, like so. And it all kind of has to fit together at the same time. So if you don't get it totally in there, I mean, it's not the end of the world. When we get the screw on there, it'll tighten things down a bit. Speaking of which, we'll just use another one of these 6mm screws. Get some thread locker, feed it through, another hex nut, hold it on there, get our hex key, and cinch that down. And if the nut spins a little, you can kind of pinch it like this, and that'll get it nice and tight. So, alright, we've got a little bit of not fitting in there the way we want going on there. Okay, it looks like it's gone in. Alright, that's good. So we'll set this aside. This piece is done for sure. Okay, so we can do the same over here, except there's a couple of gotchas. If you go too quickly, you'll have to undo your work. So go ahead and peel off protective tape. We've got little spring contacts there. All right. And we'll just take the controller, which has matching contacts on the back, and we'll place it on there like this. Take another 6mm screw, a little bit more thread locker, feed it through, get the hex nut in place, get everything tightened up a little bit. And if you can't see anything, raise your hand. YouTube joke. Alright. Then we'll go ahead and we won't put the screw in here just yet. That screw also goes into these hinge parts. So again, this one's a little tight. Oh, there we go. Oh, perfect. Okay. And we've got one more over here. We'll wait. Take our second washer, put it in this slot, and get everything to fit together at the same time. This is where the puzzle part of the puzzle hinges comes in. So you can cheat a little bit and get your tweezers in there, get that to pop out. I don't know how clear this is going to be, but you can at least see the general area where things are supposed to go. And people already figured this out without any instructions, which I was pretty impressed with. But some of this stuff isn't totally obvious. At least it wasn't to me, so maybe people are just smarter than me. Not impossible. Just get that all fed through there. Another hex nut. Hold it down. Get that tightened. And that should cinch everything together and get a nice solid connection between those spring contacts and those pads. Okay, that looks good, nice and strong. Yeah, it's flopping in the breeze, but I don't know, I prefer to do it this way. So, what's left? Well, we've got a few more pieces of hardware left up here. Don't need our sandpaper anymore, don't need our flux, don't need our solder. We might need our tweezers. We'll just keep them over here. Definitely need our hex key. We'll need some of this. So we can attach the hinges together, and we'll take these little white bushings and use those to space out the hinges when they're compressed together. So when you put these together, you tend to squeeze them down on the nut a little bit, and that's actually good because it will help hold the bushing in place when you pop it in there. So you'd like to spread it out with the hex key a little bit, push it in, and then use the hex key to get that nice and centered. So there we go, side one. And all right, those can be hard to find sometimes. Maybe we should work on a black surface instead of a white one. Trying to be fancy over here. Okay, let's get that pushed in. That's pretty well centered already. So, born of experience, this is how I fold the cable. Now, on a previous assembly video, I used individual wires instead of this flat cable. You could still do that, like if you want the flexibility, or you want to make them more compact, or maybe you can use some of Adafruit's fancy flexible silicone wire or something like that. So let's drop a thread locker, one of our last remaining hex nuts, get that all cinched in. Now this one you don't want to tighten up too much, because if you tighten it too much, you'll flex the circuit board when you move it. So just get it so it's a nice amount of drag, but not like not too much force on there. So we'll just go ahead and do the other one. Let's get that wedged on there, and I'll just use it the rest of my thread locker. Need some of the inside, it won't matter. And the last M3 hex nut. It's a little too tight, so I'll back it off. Once your glue or thread locker solidifies a little bit, that'll keep things from wandering, so feel free to set it to whatever tension that you desire. So we're almost done. Last thing is this nose pad. Now, these are the nose pads from the regular LED matrix shades that we have. And we have some better ideas in process, but couldn't get them ready in time. So this is what we have. And we'll definitely post about any upgrades. So take some of these very small screws and feed them through. And you always have to do one thing wrong. I'll go get my screwdriver for those. Alright, I don't want to boast. It was probably not the only wrong thing I've done in this video, but whatever. It's getting put together just fine. So I'd be pretty careful assembling this, because if the screwdriver slips, if you put a whole bunch of force on it, you're going to end up scratching a circuit board, which will make you very unpopular in your town. Just sometimes have to wedge that nut to get it to bite a little bit more. And we'll just do the same with the very last piece of the RGB shades. apologize in advance for terrible, terrible camera work. My cameraman just doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, well, that is assembled. I like to fold them with the controller side first and then put this over. We could attach this cable. This is a nice skinny cable, but I'll keep this nice and attach a different cable I've got somewhere. Mistake number 2. Well, we'll just use this cable. So, wedge that in and attach it to our giant oversized USB power supply. So run it for like a week and see what we get. Turn on, of course. And stuff's happening. Yes. Can't really see it because the light is so bright, but I can increase the brightness on this. And I'll just go ahead and turn off the overhead light. Here we go. So this is looking pretty good. Pretty good and blurry. So, yes. Alright, well, that is about it for assembling the RGB shades. And if, unlike me, you keep your mouth shut while building them, you'll probably be able to do it much faster. It's not too bad. It's very strong. I'm pretty happy with the design after having assembled 40 of them earlier today. But yeah, have fun. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, let us know. We'll be happy to answer. Talk to you later.